Hey there, welcome to School of Emo, the podcast where we dive into the world of emo, pop punk, and everything in between. If you've ever found yourself in your car screaming the lyrics to Taking Back Sunday, wearing way too much eyeliner in the early 2000s, adding a buckle or a chain to every outfit you've put on, you are in the right place. I'm Erin Judge, and each week I will be your fellow student, guiding you through the music, the culture, and the history that shaped an entire generation of angsty teens. I am not the teacher of this school. I am a fellow student, here to learn alongside you and from you. Together, we will cover a lot of information that doesn't really matter, but will remind us of the days of stalking MySpace channels and getting lost in chat rooms. So connect your dial-up, turn on your webcam, and let's go to School of Emo. Welcome back to School of Emo, classes in session, and today we are covering the piano punk himself, Andrew McMahon, which also includes Something Corporate and Jack's Mannequin, which are two emo staples by one man, one very small man on a piano, and I'm so excited. I've seen Andrew McMahon in different ways twice already, and I'm about to see him again in New York City on a rooftop as Jack's Mannequin. So this is perfectly timed to go through the history a little bit more, dive into some of the work that he has done and the impact he has had on the emo space, and even how his music has evolved and what it has meant to this scene as a whole in pop punk and emo, however you want to characterize them. So let's dive in. So let's go back to the early 2000s when emo was all about guitars, throat shredding vocals, this punk post-hardcore sound. Something Corporate stood out. A lot like Dashboard Confessional. We had Dashboard with the solo acoustic guitar. Now we have this babyface frontman on a full piano on stage that completely changed or created this new kind of pocket within the emo post-hardcore punk space. So Andrew McMahon was born in 1982, grew up in California, very much a California dude. I would say like we see Dashboard more Midwest style. Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, very California, which I think a lot of pop punk came out of that space as well. But he started playing piano around age 9. After the death of his father, whenever Andrew was only in grade school, so very young, music became his main outlet. And then he formed Something Corporate in high school out of that space. And then by 2002, they had signed to Drive Through Records and released their first album, Leaving Through the Window, which was a very emo pop record featuring some of the songs like I Woke Up in a Car, If I See Jordan, and Punk Rock Princess. I regret not having the Punk Rock Princess Instagram, TikTok handle. Whoever has it, iconic, good move. I think everyone wanted that on MySpace back in the day. We all thought that that's who we were as young teens. And it really did become this kind of emo prom night staple during the 2000s. But what we found was that this kind of Southern California blend of emo lyricism, punk attitude, and the piano-driven melodies helped push emo beyond just guitars and really helped, again, create a new sound within the space that then paved the way for other artists to follow suit. With McMahon's songwriting, it felt like a diary entry of a suburban poet with big feelings, big dreams, and the fans related hard. Again, a lot like we saw with Dashboard. It's very similar, but kind of two different styles, even within that style or umbrella of this entire space. Looking at the lyrics of I Woke Up in a Car, I woke up in New York City from my sleep behind the wheel, caught a train to Poughkeepsie and time stood still. She wrote me a letter from San Diego to qualify her luck. These flights connect through Arizona, but I think I'll stay stuck. So here I am, well, I woke up in a car. I traced away the fog so I could see the Mississippi on her knees. I've never been so lost. I've never felt so much at home. Please write my folks and throw away my keys. I woke up in a car. I woke up in a car. I met a girl who kept tattoos for homes that she had loved. If I were her, I'd paint my body till all my skin was gone. She wrote me a letter as we passed through Rockford. She said we won't forget. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but I haven't yet. So by 2004, Something Corporate went on a hiatus. The band members, particularly Andrew McMahon said that they were physically and mentally exhausted from the demanding schedule of touring as well as recording, something that we saw with a lot of bands around this time in the early 2000s coming out of the 90s. So something corporate, promised that they would just be on a hiatus. It would just be temporary. It was not a breakup. They did do a reunion tour in 2024, and they do still say that they technically never broke up. They're not technically broken up and gone forever. They just remain on a break overall. But during this early hiatus, McMahon reflected and said that this allowed each team member of something corporate to explore other projects and interests. So for him, his deeply personal side project then became known as Jack's Mannequin, which started as a solo endeavor, but then became his most emotionally intense work. And probably, I would say, what he is known for the most, just because of the breadth of what Jack's Mannequin had become in this emo space and scene in our culture as a whole. So, just as the first Jack's Mannequin album, Everything in Transit, was about to be released in 2005, all this work he had worked on, this deeply reflective, personal, vulnerable work, McMahon was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia at only 22 years old. I had always thought that this came before the songs, but in truth, it came after the songs were already written, literally a few days before the album was released. So he received a stem cell transplant from his sister and began treatment. And the release of Everything in Transit happened just days after his diagnosis. So we had songs like Dark Blue, the mixtape, Rescued. They took on new haunting weight in the new reality of his life. Instead of retreating and hiding away and taking a pause, Andrew decided to bring his fans into the healing process, which is where the documentary Dear Jack in 2009 chronicled his cancer journey and became an emo rite of passage for anyone navigating illness, loss, and life's unfairness. Very much an emo thing to do, to not only share the hardest parts of your life through lyrics and through song, but to now share it visually and like bring people into the room and into the space with you. So if you haven't seen the documentary, it goes through the diagnosis. So it kind of opens with his diagnosis on June 1st, 2005, which was the same day he finished recording the debut album. Then it goes through treatment. So following him through various medical procedures, including spinal taps, radiation, ultimately a stem cell transplant from his sister, Kate. And it's kind of how to navigate that relationship at that point as well. Then it went through the stem cell transplant. So the full procedure, which was the major highlight of the film. That's the arc, right, of hope, showcasing both the challenges and the eventual success of treatment. And then it culminated with the return to performing and the recovery process that Andrew had to go through, demonstrating resilience and impact of his journey. The film as a whole really does dive into his personal relationships with his family, his girlfriend at the time, his friends, which helped provide a kind of humanizing experience and perspective on living with cancer and going through the battle of cancer, all while this album was also at the height. And I think if you asked him, he would probably say he would have rather promoted the album in a very different way, but this did help with the success of the album. But it was so deeply personal and connected where, we've talked about this before, the bands that truly succeeded had a deep, vulnerable connection to their fans. And that's why some of these bands have continued, these people have continued to be relevant in this space, is because their fans have continued to stay with them and they feel that tie, that connection to that history because they feel like they went through it as well, right? 2000s were the height of being able to have those experiences through MySpace, social media, documentaries, not just through the albums, but through like the other experiences we get to have with the bands that previous generations just didn't really get to have, which I think makes our generation, millennial generation, so special, but especially in this kind of emo vulnerable space. So seeing firsthand how underserved the adolescent and young adult cancer community was, and throughout filming the documentary, Andrew felt compelled to do more than just survive. So in 2006, he actually launched the Dear Jack Foundation, initially was called the Jack's Mannequin Foundation to address the gaps in care and support. So this focuses on serving adolescents and young adults, so ages 15 to 39, who were diagnosed with cancer, a demographic often overlooked in traditional cancer support systems. And their mission is to provide psychosocial support, wellness programming, and empowerment resources to patients, survivors, and their families. This age group faces a unique set of challenges, navigating relationships, education, careers, and identity formation while dealing with life-threatening illness. So the Dear Jack Foundation aims to bridge that gap with empathy, community, and real-world support. Again, a very emo thing to do. They do have some cornerstone programs and initiatives like Life List, which is sort of a wish granting program for people, kind of their own version and a more adult appropriate Make-A-Wish. The Breathe Now retreats, which are wellness retreat programs for young adult survivors and partners, which is really focused on healing after treatment. And then the AYA Cancer Advocacy, which is a collaboration with hospitals, research groups, and other nonprofits to raise awareness and funding for the adolescents and young adult specific care and research. This is something that Andrew has spoken on, testified about nationwide at these different events, using his platform to really push for better outcomes and funding, specifically in this population of cancer survivors and cancer patients. They have had over $2 million of support raised as of 2024. Hundreds of Life Lifts recipients, dozens of Breathe Now retreats have been hosted across the US, and they've had countless fans educated and inspired to join the cause through Andrew's music, concerts, and storytelling. So all of this came out of that time. And I share that. I know it sounds a little bit like an ad in the middle of the episode. It may seem like, a second thought, but when we think about the legacy and the impact that Andrew McMahon, but especially Jack's Mannequin, had on the emo scene, like this is a huge part of it. And community, like taking care of those who have not been seen or heard, like that is a huge part of emo culture. That's a whole point. It's trying to figure out how to be connected to others, how to be included, how to exist in this life when you may not fit in initially. And that is something that the foundation has been able to do and was rooted through this time. And I think when you meet, again, Andrew McMahon and Chris Carrabba, some of the most beautiful men in this emo scene, because of how bright, how much joy they evoke, which can be kind of rare in this space. Like there's a lot of pride in this space. There's also a lot of pain and anger and hurt in this space, but to see such joy in this space and showing a different side of emo where the vulnerability actually leads to a more full life, happiness, joy, that vibrancy that we kind of experience with these people, it's refreshing and great to see. And one thing I love about seeing Andrew McMahon in any form or fashion live is that amount of joy and energy that is so necessary and addictive, truly. So going back to Everything in Transit, mid-2000s, Dark Blue by Jack's Mannequin on this album is often interpreted as a song about a crumbling relationship and the feeling of isolation that can come with it. So the lyrics explore themes of loneliness, even in crowded situations, and the emotional turmoil of a relationship that's falling apart. The line, "Have you ever been alone in a crowded room?" resonates with so many who feel isolated despite being surrounded by people. I think we've all experienced this in some way. I find it so interesting that this was written before the diagnosis. It's almost like this came to him before he knew that he needed it, in the way that then it connected so deeply to what he was about to go through, and then what would become kind of a part of the album and the album history. At a show a couple of years ago, it was just an Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness show, but of course, Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, all the top songs were included. But Andrew was talking about this song in particular, and he was, I believe he was joined on stage by someone he wrote it with. I don't remember all the exact specifics because it's been a few years, but he did talk about how this wasn't originally written for the album. Like it wasn't planned in advance. It wasn't written early on. It wasn't going to be considered a single. But he wrote it very much last minute. Like they had one more song in them. They decided to try it out, had the concept, wrote it seamlessly, threw it into the album kind of last minute, and decided it would be a single. And now it is the most streamed Jack's Mannequin song today. I think the one that they're probably known for the most, as well as a lot of the songs, but that one is definitely the biggest one. So looking at Dark Blue lyrics, I have you breathing down my neck. I don't know what you could possibly expect. Under this condition, so I'll wait for the ambulance to come. Pick us up off the floor. What did you possibly expect under this condition? So slow down. The night's a perfect shade of dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room when I'm here with you? I said the world could be burning down dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room while I'm here with you? I said the world could be burning till there's nothing but dark blue, just dark blue. This flood is slowly rising up, swallowing the ground beneath my feet. Tell me how anybody thinks under this condition, so I'll swim as the water rises up. The sun is sinking down, and now all I can see are the planets in a row, suggesting it's best that I slow down. This night's a perfect shade of dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowding room when I'm here with you? I said the world could be burning, burning down dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room while I'm here with you? I said the world could be burning dark blue. We were boxing the stars. We were boxing, you were swinging for Mars. And then the water reached the West Coast and took the power lines. And it was me and you and the whole town underwater. And there was nothing we could do. It was dark blue. So after this album, two more Jack's Mannequin albums followed: The Glass Passenger in 2008, as well as People and Things in 2011, both filled with hope, heartache, and the idea of surviving in its own kind of triumph, kind of coming out of this space that Andrew had walked through himself and even collectively through the documentary and everything that followed. Sandwiched between these albums, there was a 2009 EP called Dear Jack to go along with the documentary, which is where we got the iconic Dear Jack song. I thought this was a part of another album. I was trying to figure out where it fit in, and it was only part of this EP, but included in the documentary. The lyrics say, Dear Jack, I'll write you as a friend. Dear friend, I fear the end is coming soon. To you, it's not so clear. It's clear to me. It's clear as glass. Dear Jack, dear Jack, dear Jack. Dear hope, attach it to the end of your rope. A rope that wove ambition and with sorrow. Distancing tomorrow, tomorrow's coming past. Dear Jack, dear Jack. You were the fighter. I was the kid against the world. I heard there's nothing gonna hold you down. I'll use a lighter so you can see what isn't there. We'll swing at air, swinging off, eventually you're bound, bound to the ground. Dear Jack, wherever you hold tight, wherever he is, shine light right here. Be strong, I dare. I know it's hard, I will wait, yeah. Can't wait to sing that collectively with so many people at the show. I hope that they play this. I'm assuming he will. I'm assuming there will be space for the Dear Jack Foundation, just because that tends to show up in his shows, and this is the Jack's Mannequin tour. And so it's going to be so meaningful to sit through. And anyone in a chronic illness space, my actual day job is in that space. This is really impactful. So while Jack's Mannequin still holds so much legacy and so much respect in this space, they did officially end in 2012. And I mean, they never really ended, but kind of ended due to McMahon's desire to move on to new musical projects and a desire for a fresh start. So Andrew stated that he felt tired of writing songs as Jack's Mannequin and wanted the freedom of a solo career. The band had reached a point where they felt a sense of completion and wanted to explore new creative directions. I'm assuming that this is probably linked to, again, such a personal, like the cancer history, like all the things that came, where Jack's Mannequin itself maybe couldn't evolve fully past what it was because of how deeply connected it was in a space. It's my assumption. I don't know. I would be really curious to ask Andrew about it. Andrew, if you want to come on the podcast, please, it would be wonderful. So they retired Jack's Mannequin as a name in 2012, but Andrew reemerged in 2014 as Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. So the sound actually shifted. I would say this is still emotional and melodic and introspective in terms of lyricism, but more of an indie pop and synth vibe, not necessarily this kind of emo post-hardcore punk in any way, pop punk even vibe, definitely more of this kind of indie indie undertone. With still deep introspective lyrics, but more of this kind of happiness and joy interwoven into it. The self-titled album included Cecilia and the Satellite, which was a love letter to his newborn daughter and a reminder that emo doesn't end in adolescence. They also followed up with the albums Zombies on Broadway in 2017, Upside Down Flowers in 2018, and Tilted the Wind No More in 2023, showing that an artist who's not afraid to grow up but still holds on to wonder, heartbreak, and honesty could succeed in this space and could still connect to so many fans. Cecilia and the Satellite is still one of the top songs. It has such legacy tied to it. And I am assuming that this will also be played at the Jack's Mannequin show because it is what Andrew McMahon is also known for. And looking at the lyrics, I locked myself in a hotel room, then waited all night for the walls to move. I've loved some girls that I barely knew. I've made some friends and I've lost some too. Crashed my car. I was 17, my mother in the seat riding next to me. The things I've learned from a broken mirror, how a face can change when a heart knows fear. For all the things my eyes have seen, the best by far is you. If I could fly, then I would know what life looks like from up above and down below. I keep you safe, I keep you dry. Don't be afraid, Cecilia. I'm the satellite and you're the sky. I've cafe crawled through Amsterdam, been around the world with a punk rock band, and I've seen London and I've seen Japan. I've been knocked down, I got up again. For all the places I've seen, I'm no place without you. If I could fly, then I would know what life looks like from up above and down below. I keep you safe, I keep you dry. Don't be afraid, Cecilia. I'm the satellite and you're the sky. I'm the satellite and you're the sky. For all the things my hands have held, the best by far is you. So even though this emo revival has brought younger acts back into the spotlight, Andrew's work does continue to resonate through Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, and even Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness for those that have followed. He tours with nostalgia-heavy lineups like Emo Night and Hello Gone Days tour. He also has played alongside Dashboard Confessional and Taking Back Sunday. He is going to be at When We Were Young this year, I think, as all three, Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. He's doing the Jack's Mannequin tour currently. And even though there's so much nostalgia tied to his legacy and what he has created, he has never been just a nostalgia act. He's always writing, he's evolving. And if you've ever seen him live, he still has the energy and the experience of connection within his shows. I am not necessarily a giant Andrew McMahon, Jack's Mannequin fan, meaning I'm not listening to the music at all times. I didn't necessarily follow, the Jack's Mannequin history at the time that it was there. Like, I don't have that deep heart connection and experience as a fan, but I am a fan of Andrew McMahon live. And if I ever have the opportunity to see him live, I'm going to, because the energy you feel is so strong. He also does run a cruise. I would love to go, but we tend to go to the Emo's Not Dead cruise, and 2 cruises within just a couple of months is very hard to do. Not something we're able to, especially leaving from like California and LA. But it's the Holiday is for Real, which is also a title of one of his songs. And that cruise kind of hosts emo punk, pop punk, indie pop bands similar to what you've seen in his trajectory. And I've heard from people that have gone that it is so deeply connected in community and joy, and that he truly takes on this kind of a loving host, vibe from that cruise. So one day, hopefully, maybe I will be able to go and figure out a way to swing both, because I also love the Emo's Not Dead cruise. And I always wondered why he wouldn't come on that, and then realized that he has his own he started and he's been doing, and I've heard it's amazing. So another option for those of you out there that want to join in and listen. And if you are nearby for this upcoming tour and you have considered maybe not going, again, if you were kind of in a similar position as me, or maybe you don't necessarily love Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness as much, but you did love the early Something Corporate Jack's Mannequin days, go. It is going to be worth your time, I promise. He is such a good performer. It's worth it. And then you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'll take that criticism if I have to. After the show, I will come back and share kind of a recap and let you know how it went, some of the songs that were played, favorite moments, all the things. So stay tuned for that in June after we are complete. And then join me next week as we dive into another band that I'm going to see very soon. Kind of going off of the bands that are coming and the shows in June for you. So I'll see you in the next class.